Welcome to Change and Uncertainty, Our New Normal. Let's think about how our world has changed. I think back to mid-March of 2020. It all began on a Monday, March 16th, when the senior staff and Renee and I were meeting to discuss how we might begin to close. Tuesday evening after I got home, Brad Inman, who owns Inman News, called me and asked, Bob, is HR closed yet? And I said, no, but we're working on it. And he basically screamed at me. He said, Bob, close your offices, protect your members and your staff. Wednesday, we closed the branches, and Friday we closed the HR main office. But I want to make clear, HAR itself as an entity never closed. We were staffed by at least 7 employees from day one at the HR main office, and 75 staff were working remotely, typically from home. I never imagined the possibility of working from home. It just never entered my mind. To me, to do a job, you went to the office. So this was all new to me. But I discovered that during this time, we served more members in more ways than we ever had in the history of HAR. Members taking education classes, the number of members taking education classes doubled. Members attending HAR events increased by a factor of 5. Member support, instead of being 5 days, became 7 days. The technology department created a virtual open house tool with 22,000 consumers so far looking at virtual open houses. They created a 3D tour tool and a new showing service. Over 8,000 members joined virtually during this time with no human intervention. And members could order any supplies they wanted online and then drive up and we would bring it out to their car. And then there was uncertainty. We were watching restaurants and airlines and hotels basically in big trouble. We feared what might happen to the real estate industry. So to be proactive, HAR waived third quarter MLS fees in 2020, saving members millions of dollars. However, we then witnessed the best real estate market in history, more sales, higher prices, and HAR made its #1 priority to make sure real estate professionals were deemed essential. So let's take a look at the real estate market. Prices, as we know, have gone skyrocketing since the pandemic started. The median price is incredibly high. This was in June, 363,000. June sales rose 23% from a year earlier. Some economists are now saying wait until 2022 to buy a home. Fannie Mae's predicting a cooling off for the rest of this year and next year, although it's only at 2%. So that's not going to be that noticeable, I don't believe. Cash is king. 1/3 of all sales so far in 2021 have been all cash. And let's look at brokers, franchises, and portals. So here are the top 5 brokerages in the United States that are members of HAR. So Realogy, Compass, EXP, Redfin, and Douglas Elliman. So if you look at total dollar volume for the first part of this year, Compass is 1, Better Homes and Gardens 2, EXP 3, Coldwell Banker 4, and Martha Turner Sotheby's 5. The point here is not long ago, virtually all brokers in the HAR market were locally owned. Today, of these 5, only 1, Erie Green, is locally owned. Compass owned out of New York, EXP owned out of Washington State, Coldwell Banker and Martha Turner Sotheby's owned out of New Jersey. Same thing with active listings. All 5 of the top 5 brokers based upon active listings are not locally owned. Major change from the way it used to be. And according to the 1,000 Watts survey, 82% of homeowners were more likely to trust information from Zillow than from a real estate agent, or trust it about the same. And then they ask them about the iBuyers. 77% of homeowners would be willing to take 5 to 10% less to avoid the hassle of a traditional sale with a certainty of a cash offer. Major, major shift. So who are the iBuyers? Well, the number one obviously is Open Door. It's worth 1.2 billion, or their revenue was 1.2 billion in Q2, and they sold 8,500 homes. Zillow Offers made a profit of 772 million and sold 2,000 homes. OfferPad just went public at a value of 2.7 billion. And Redfin Now, we don't have any stats because Redfin doesn't break out its Redfin Now properties from its regular sales. So let's look at in Houston. The iBuyers account for total volume of the MLS of about 0.5%. And as far as active listings, they account for just over 1%, which is exactly what it is nationwide. That's exactly what iBuyers represent nationwide, a little over 1%. So who are the new models out there? Knock. Homeowners may move into a home via a bridge loan that Knock provides. HomeLight, they provide agent referral business. They have a trade-in and they have cash offers, and they're valued at $1.6 billion. And they're funded in large part by Google. Orchard has a value of $1 billion. They offer a bridge loan to a home buyer. Better Homes is basically a mortgage company that's valued at $8 billion. And now they've started a discount brokerage. And Tomo is a new mortgage broker who I think agents will be interested to hear about this one because they will do pre-approvals in hours and they guarantee the closing. So let's say the closing's at noon tomorrow, the papers aren't ready, the appraisal's not ready, whatever it may be is not ready, they will still fund the loan and closing. Picasso, a new company that's now valued at $1.5 billion. They sell shares in second homes and they manage the home and take care of every detail. And then you look at brokers, the amount of money that some brokers are making right now based upon second quarter revenues. They're awash in cash and they're using it to invest in prop tech, expanding to other markets, and buying and acquiring other companies. So in the second quarter, Douglas Elliman brought in 392 million, EXP almost $1 billion, Realogy 2.3 billion, and Compass brought in 2 billion. Let's look at new technologies, and so much of what I'm talking about impacts the real estate industry in one way or the other. So Ford's new F-150 pickup can power your house for 3 days. And one of the things in their advertising, and they made a big point, is if you'd owned that car during the winter storm in Texas, you'd have powered your home. You wouldn't have had to worry about it. Tesla has signed a deal with new home builders to outfit an entire community with solar, a power wall, and chargers throughout the community. Volkswagen CEO, and Volkswagen is the largest car manufacturer in the world, believes that electric cars are not the big deal or the game changer, but actually autonomous smart cars are what's going to change everything. Now, billionaire Larry Page, his Kitty Hawk, is making an all-out bet on robot air taxis. And he believes that one pilot on the ground working 5 aircrafts in the air, he's got a little handheld gizmo that he controls the planes because there's no pilot in the planes, can lower the cost per mile to $1 operating cost, making it cheaper than taking an Uber or a Lyft ride. And this is huge, and I never dreamed these facts, but self-driving truck startup Embark is about to go public at $5.2 billion. And last year, $11 billion was invested, in self-driving trucks. And here's the key: the value of moving goods by truck is $791 billion versus $35 billion for rideshare. So Lyft and Uber has a whole lot less money to make than the trucking industry. So imagine yourself driving down I-45 and an 18,000-pound truck drives beside you and there's no driver in it. How are you going to feel? Because that's going to happen. That will happen sooner than later. And Amazon is right now buying 1,000 self-driving trucks. GM will spend $35 billion on electric and autonomous vehicles over the next 4 years. And within 4 years, they're going to introduce 30 new electric models. Right now, every car company in the world is putting all their money into electric, not gas automobiles. DHL will purchase 12 electric cargo planes for US package delivery. FedEx will spend $2 billion to make its fleet 100% electric. Amazon will buy 100,000 electric vans for package delivery. And electric vehicle registrations are up more than 95% in early 2021. And for every new car registered, 3 to 1 were electric. And the availability of charging stations will impact residential and commercial real estate, high rises, condos, apartments, office buildings. That's where I say this is going to greatly impact real estate. I'm on the board of a high-rise condominium where I live. And the other night we met and some of the residents came in and says, okay, we want the board to install charging stations so we can buy electric cars. And we don't want just the regular charging stations. We want the high quality, fast charging stations. Very expensive. So these are going to be decisions that boards of directors and owners of these apartments and high rises and office buildings are going to have to deal with very, very shortly, because this is coming very quickly, much faster than we ever dreamed of, I believe. And as I said, the world's largest car companies are not investing any money now in combustible engine cars. They're putting billions into electric and self-driving automobiles. Something I had no idea about. Texas quickly has become the #1 leader in the country in wind energy. It is now leading the #2 state by a factor of 3. In solar, we've gone from 0 to #2 in the country and soon to be #1. And the same thing with battery storage. Texas is #2 behind California, but will soon be #1. So we're going to be #1 in wind and in solar and in storing that energy in batteries. One example is Key Capture, a company that this year is spending $100 million on battery storage units in Texas. And then Tesla is building a $1.1 billion gigafactory in Texas. So climate information, how's that going to impact real estate? The Western US may be entering its most severe drought in modern history. The Houston Chronicle, Portland-like heat wave would bring 130-degree temperatures to Texas. After the freeze, insurance companies come up short for many Texans. The damage will cost insurance companies, that storm cost insurance companies $18 billion. And due to Texas allowing insurers flexibility in their policies, many homeowners will not realize that when their pipes broke and they had damage, it won't be covered by their insurance policy. More than 1/3 of the Utah homes face fire damage or fire risk, 1/3. In California, homes facing high risk, fire risk amount to $628 billion in the value of those homes. In 2020, there were twice as many high tide flooding days as there were 20 years ago, impacting insurance rates and home values. Now, just for example, take Fort Lauderdale. In Fort Lauderdale, on certain nights of the week, you go downtown to their busiest street, their main street, and it may be flooded or may be very high water, and yet it hadn't rained for days. Or people wake up the next morning that live on the water, they look out in their backyard and it's full of fish that are dead because the tides come into their yard, it's gone out, but the fish stayed behind. That's what we're dealing with. That's the new high tide flooding that we're witnessing. Is the climate crisis making some U.S. real estate too risky to insure? So the first issue with climate change is insurance. Can you afford it? And then can you get it? The insurers are fleeing fire-prone areas, and some insurance premiums may increase five-fold in flood-prone areas. So think of Houston, Texas. Think of the flooding we have, and think of what may happen to our insurance premiums. Increased heat, drought, wildfires, and flooding can ravage power grids. Utilities are facing a $500 billion expense to fortify the grids. The Texans will pay, that's you and me, will pay $3.6 billion in natural gas costs incurred during the freeze. So if the power companies lost $3.6 billion, they need to get it back. The way you get it back is increase everybody's cost. And that's all of the ratepayers will pay more to reimburse them for that. So what are the climate information sources? There are two right now: flood factor and climate check. So if you take this piece of property for sale in Houston and you go to the #2 real estate website, which is realtor.com, and you pull it up, you can find FEMA maps and you can find flood factor. That will show what are the odds of this property flooding. Then you go to Redfin, the 4th most visited website in real estate, same property, and you get the flood risk there. But you also get from climate check, heat risk, storm risk, drought risk, fire risk, all the different risks. So with Redfin, you get everything that's available right now. Then you go to the 5th most popular website, which is Movoto, which is owned by Ojo Labs, a company in Austin, Texas. And there it shows drought, storm, fire, temperature, and flood. So my point is, this is what consumers want. And now you've got 3 of the 5 largest websites in the country offering exactly what consumers want. Well, what about the #1 site, Zillow, and the #3, Trulia? When will they add climate information? I predict they're going to do it before the end of this year. I think it's a foregone conclusion. So the top 5 websites in the United States will all have flood and fire and drought and heat and all these factors that consumers want to know about before they buy a property. So what does that mean to me? That means HAR.com has to file a suit, or people will leave us and go to where they find the information they're seeking. So here's something very interesting. This is a wind turbine that generates 5 times more energy than its competitors. Look at the size of that thing compared to the Eiffel Tower and a ship and an airplane and the Statue of Liberty. It's as tall as the Eiffel Tower, and it exposes its rotor blades to higher wind speeds. So the higher you go, the higher the wind speed, the faster the blades turn. Second, its 150-foot smaller blades perform better than what we think of as a wind turbine that's got one huge blade on it that turns very slow. So this right here could power up to 100,000 households. Now, here's to me, the thing to really look at. Banks consider climate risk for home loans. So first of all, we talk about, can you afford insurance? Can you get insurance? And now, can you get a loan based upon where your property is located? So underwater writing is when banks consider external climate data in their mortgage decision. And blue lining, you've heard of red lining. This is blue lining, where lenders draw lines of risk around certain streets or certain neighborhoods. Climate catastrophes are poised to destroy American homes. We know that. We're watching it. And banks are starting to calculate their risk if they loan on certain properties. So climate risk is now an integral part of the value of a home. So 2 major things: insurance and the mortgage are now impacted by climate change. So the real estate industry. Our friends at the DOJ noted NAR rules affect millions of brokers and agents and consumers who paid $85 billion in commissions last year. And a combination of a strong real estate market, rising home prices, and the fact that 9 out of 10 consumers use a realtor has resulted in agent commissions probably topping $100 billion in this year. And so here's the Wall Street Journal article. I mean, almost daily, there's an article in the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal about NAR and real estate commissions and lawsuits and FTC and all that. So seller and buyer lawsuits regarding offers of compensation. So sellers and buyers are suing NAR and major franchisors and looking at MLSs. And the DOJ has canceled the NAR agreement that they had because they wanted the ability to look at everything the industry is doing, not just certain things. And now the FTC has been instructed to review NAR rules and policies. And you have broker lawsuits against NAR like Rex and the listing services. And then the DOJ is probing the NAR pocket listing ban. So as you know, under clear cooperation, if you take a listing, you need to put it in the MLS within one day. I would have assumed the DOJ would have been in support of that. But now they're questioning whether or not that might be a violation of the rights of other people and maybe an antitrust violation. On another topic, Tricon, and these are big landlords now that are buying up homes to rent. Tricon will own 50,000 homes within 3 years. They're launching a $5 billion house hunt. And every property placed in rental is another that cannot be purchased by an American family. The investors have purchased 68,000 US homes during the second quarter. 68,000 homes have been purchased during the second quarter for $48.5 billion to be turned into rental properties. Here's one I mentioned a while ago, Tomo, a new mortgage company that just got $70 million in backing. Their mortgages are pre-approved in hours. They're guaranteed on-time closing, and they guarantee to match any other lender rates. So here are the industry players. Zillow, #1 portal, has Zillow offers. It buys the iBuyer piece. And Zillow Home, the one that lists those and puts it in the MLS. And then they just bought Showing Time for $500 million. Then you got News Corp, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch. They also own the Wall Street Journal, and they run Realtor.com, the #2 portal in the country. Then you have CoStar, that's been primarily involved in commercial real estate and apartments, because they own apartments.com, which you can't turn on the TV and not see an ad for that. And now they're getting into the residential market by buying HomeSnap, which is a app for agents. HR doesn't use it because we have our own app for agents. And they bought homes.com to compete with Realtor and Zillow and HR.com as a public portal. And then the fourth is Rocket, #1 mortgage company in the country, as big as its 3 next biggest competitors that refers business to agents, is now becoming an iBuyer and a discount broker. And then I had never heard of Stone Point Capital until recently, when I found out that they had bought CoreLogic. And why does that matter? Because CoreLogic runs and owns Matrix, that is our MLS, and they own Lone Wolf, which has many things we use, such as Cloud CMA. So these 5 have dramatic impact on HAR and its membership. So you look at showing services. Showing Time is Zillow bought, Insta Showing, which is investor owned, Centra Key, which NAR and CentralLock own, HomeSnap Showings that CoStar owns, Local Showings that Delta Media Group owns. Supra, I'm just told, just bought a service that will become a showing service. So now there'll be Supra on this list. And then Showing Smart that HAR has created is available to the membership. So let's look at the new normal. Here was Brad Inman interviewing Pete Flint. Pete Flint started, he was the founder of Trillia. He sold it, made some money, and now he's a venture capitalist. So Pete's saying it's easier for a tech company to become a real estate company than a real estate company to become a tech company. And some examples he gives is technology is in the DNA of Zillow's Rich Barton and Open Doors Eric Wu. And I like this one. Brad interviewed Gary Keller, and he said, every day, physically based companies wake up and ask this question: what's the least I have to do digitally to protect my physically based business? The problem is, digitally based businesses ask, what's the least I need to do in the physical space to kick your physically based butt? That was the quote from Gary Keller. And you look at what the pandemic has done, it has definitely shifted physical to digital. I mean, so much of what we're doing now is digital versus physical. So it's been a real shot in the arm. And many people have said, what would have taken 5 years? It's taken 18 months to get us to where we are today. And Gary said, we're not going back. Why would we ever want to go back? And I think there's a lot of truth in that. A lot of people, you want to go back. You want to go back to where you're with people, you hug, you have fun, you do stuff. But as far as getting rid of technology and going back to non-digital just doesn't make any sense. So Mark Andreessen, a big venture capitalist in Silicon Valley, said that remote work is a permanent civilization shift more important than the internet. Remote work is a permanent civilization shift more important than the internet. And according to the Counselor of Real Estate survey, remote work was named the #1 issue impacting real estate, remote work. And #2, which has usually been #1, is technology and innovation. So it's almost like no matter who you ask, remote work is at the top of the list. Now, how COVID is slowly killing the open house. This year, 10% of buyers purchase homes without physically seeing them, according to the National Association of Realtors. I talked to a realtor the other day who said, I sold the most expensive home ever sold in Napa Valley to a buyer who never physically set foot in it. I took my cell phone, I put him on FaceTime, and I walked around the house and answered every question. I showed him everything I could, made an offer, closed, never saw it. So that, I think, is becoming more and more the new norm. So the new reality, virtual tours surpass in-person property viewings. And why? #1, COVID. COVID started it, but Gen Xers and millennials are the driving force because they grew up with a cell phone in their hand. They grew up with video. They grew up with TikTok. They grew up with YouTube, and they're used to that. And they want that digital experience. And so we're going to see a shift to that according to everything you read. What's the new normal for listings? I mean, back in the 1960s, a single black and white photo with description. In 1970, I bought my first house, and the realtor gave me the little book to take home. And I just thought I had died and gone to heaven, and I think what a waste that was, because now you get everything on the internet. But newspaper ads were everything back then. But then in 2021, 3D tours. Consumers could like and save a listing. They could request a tour, all of this on the website. New data sets like walk score, tax history, and maps with Google Street View, and automated valuation models like Zestimates. And the #1 thing consumers want on a website is the listing. #2 is the picture with description, not just a picture, but picture and description of what that room is. And #3 is mortgage calculators. So, and currently we're adding noise levels and effects of climate change and other things that consumers are demanding. And then cutting back office space is going to save a lot of money for a lot of companies. And Zillow is allowing the vast majority of its 7,000 employees to work remotely anywhere in the United States that will greatly reduce their rental costs. And the CEO of Realogy will no longer have a private office. She plans to work mainly from home. She'll come to the office when she needs to meet with people, and they'll have private meeting rooms for that, but she will no longer have a private office. Build to rent homes make up 6% of new homes built annually, and that will double to 12% within 3 years. And the largest home builders will spend $40 billion during the next 18 months to create build to rent subdivisions. So entire subdivisions will be rentals, no longer owned. And forever doomed, our CEO business travel, having saved billions from slashed travel budgets during the pandemic with only marginal impact on operations, companies will be hard pressed to explain why they would return to their old travel ways. So if I have a meeting with someone in New York, to discuss something tomorrow at noon, I fly there, it takes me all day, go to the airport, you got to get an Uber from the airport to the hotel, check in, pay for a night, have breakfast, go to the meeting lasts an hour, then I fly back. I'm out of the office 2 days, or I can jump on Zoom and do exactly the same thing for zero cost. And half of small businesses can't find enough workers to fill their jobs. This is very troublesome. I mean, it's tragic that they just can't find anybody to do the job. We were recently going to lunch at an Asian restaurant in the Hale Village. Went in, it was about 2/3 empty. I said, how about that table right there? And the lady, the maitre d' said, I'm sorry, there's an hour wait. I said, an hour wait, there's nobody in here. And she said, we don't have anybody hardly to wait on you or to cook your food in the kitchen. We can't find people. And then we were driving down Galveston seawall, sign after sign after sign at restaurants, signing bonus $300, signing bonus $500. They can't get people to work in those places. So that's a major change from the pandemic. Remote work will fuel housing demands for years to come, and I do agree with that. I think the remote work, again, is the biggest thing impacting real estate. And now let's close this with, let me leave you with this thought. I mean, I hear a lot of agents say, I can't compete against the big guys. I want to tell you, you can. The big guys have advantages and the little guys have advantages. Make use of the advantages you have. And here's the perfect example. Zillow is valued at $24 billion. HR is valued at a whole lot less. Zillow has 7,000 employees. HAR has 80 employees. Zillow has 1,000 computer engineers and developers. HAR has a dozen. Zillow purchased showing time for $500 million and has over 900,000 users. HAR created Showing Smart with HR member input for HR members. And Zillow is the #1 real estate website in every market in the United States, large and small and medium, every market except one, Houston, Texas. And if you look at the listing detail page views, so those are your listings, 51% this week were on HR.com. 49% were on Zillow and Realtor.com combined. So HR.com your listings are being looked at on HR.com as much as the other two combined. And the last thing I want to mention is, as I said, the new product that the technology department has created, Showing Smart, that is now available to every member at no cost as we go through beta. And as of now, 22,509 members have either added a listing to be shown or gone in to request a showing on there. So it's incredibly effective, and the comments are amazing. So please give it a try. So that's change and uncertainty. I think you agree that our new normal is very much about change and uncertainty. And thank you very much for your attention. Appreciate it.